Thank you, Tim, and thank you to Dick O'Reilly. I just want to, Dick O'Neill, excuse me, Tim O'Reilly and Dick O'Neill. I want to thank them both. I think of them obviously as one visionary unit who brought us here together today and who had the foresight to make this conference happen and to really believe in, I think, something that's taking place here, something really profound and fundamental that you've been hearing about all day, which is the ways in which we're bringing change to Washington and working together in new ways. It wasn't a surprise, perhaps, if you participated in the Obama campaign and you were one of 5,400 volunteer policy advisors who collaborated using new technology to do just that, make policy with the campaign. Or if you were part of the team that Macon led that brought to us change.gov, the most open transition in history, that actually opened a window on the way that the presidential transition worked for the first time. And it will come as no surprise, of course, that for that reason, when on his first day in office, the president issued his memorandum on transparency and open government, a memorandum that actually attempted to drive three major values into the way that we work: transparency, participation, and collaboration. Transparency, opening up the ways that we work, putting the White House visitor logs now online for the very first time, making the data of government open, and you've heard a lot today about open data and the wholesale strategies now for making data not only available online, but making it downloadable and mash-upable and visualizable by you and by all of us to create value from that data. Participation, changing the conception of how we think about expertise in government, not thinking that we can make the decisions by ourselves, but that we need to use the new tools that are available to us to ask others to help us make decisions informed by the best possible information distributed across government. And collaboration, not quite the same as participation, not just bringing information to us in Washington, in Brussels, in Sacramento, but bringing political priorities and decisions to people so that we can work together in new audiences. The technology audience, for example, together now with a policy audience that can work on solving problems. It's not just rhetoric. It's not just these visionary concepts that the president has articulated of the three major values, but a lot of work that's getting done. And I've put up here just a few of these actions that have taken place in an effort to create a culture shift, a distributed culture shift across a very large organization known as government. The most important in that culture shift, I think, has to do not with the technology at all. It has to do with the people. Many of the people you've heard from today, whether it's Anish Chopra or Macon Phillips, Vivek Kundra, whom you'll hear from tomorrow, the new roles of innovation leaders, chief technology officers, and others who are helping us to think about not just change. It's not just as we see in every new administration or every business, ways of reorging the way that we work, but change informed by these values of openness and collaboration that at their heart reflect what I think is much more important, a deep trust in and desire to trust in and collaborate and have faith in the American people and our ability to work together to solve the problems of our time. So I think the most revolutionary development really is what we're doing perhaps around policy making. It's most revolutionary because it represents in a way the most fundamental shift. Namely, thinking about ways that we can use technology in manageable ways to create a process that allow us to get input early into the way that we make decisions. Whether it's input about our policy on classification and declassification, or our policy on cookies and Web 2.0, or about open government itself. What we wanted to do with this process of creating an open government initiative was to create, if you will, a model. Maybe not the perfect way of doing it, but an initial way of showing a path forward for creating policy informed by expertise outside of Washington. Getting people involved in helping us to think about how to make those policies, not at a point when it's too late to make sense of the input, not when a draft is already finished, but early in the process, when we're able to take account of feedback from people and get their input and put it to good use. This open government process, and I think you heard a bit about it this morning from Anish, and this effort to really unleash a process of bringing innovation to government really rests on three milestones. One is this policy process that started with the Open Government Initiative itself, and when new ways of working to actually do this brainstorming and discussion and then drafting that would lead us towards a coordinated policy around transparency, participation, and collaboration. And I want to talk a little bit about that, and then also the work that we've been doing on making open government real in practice, both through innovative projects and innovative platforms, to seize on the word, really the word of the day that Tim has brought to us. So we can't, I think, undertake these projects, and we can't unleash the innovative power of the many people sitting in this room and the 4 million people working across this government if we don't create a kind of coherent policy message that unleashes people's desire and their ability to try new things, to be willing to take risks, to not be afraid to fail, and to adapt the use of new tools to creating new kinds of processes in government. So we started with this process of taking public input and are now moving towards the articulation of a government-wide open government directive that you're going to see over the next couple of weeks that will create a mandate for concrete and specific agency roadmaps towards creating more open and innovative ways of working. Roadmaps that will need to be created not simply by tech people and not only by government political types, but by bringing together political, programmatic, legal, technical, and teams of people that can only through collaboration and interdisciplinary collaboration really bring change to the way that we work. This will require agents to actually have concrete schedules for how they will and which data they will put up online and make available to people. And we'll do so on the basis of citizen engagement and consultation, getting your input and your priorities for thinking about actually how do we go about the job of making government as open as possible. How do we actually going about the job of doing citizen participation and consultation around policy making, but around other areas of agency work, and adopting collaborative strategies across agencies. This will again be subject to, in every case, public review and public input. To take a lesson from the concept of open, we need to apply it. If we're going to be open, we need to be open about the way that we do that. And finally, part of that process will also involve ongoing coordinated policy work that will help to overcome any doubts that people have about, am I allowed to actually do citizen participation online, and how do I do it? Can I offer a prize to the public in order to solve a challenge? How do I actually engage in collaborative problem solving? I think our policy actually is really quite good and it's there, but there's a lot of question and ambiguity about how sometimes old laws apply to very new technologies and very new ways of working. And we're conscious of that and recognize that we need a concerted and ongoing policy-making effort that will involve a wide array of actors in creating the next generation of Web 2.0 policy to support Web 2.0 activities. What we do is actually not simply, though, make policy. It's not just openness for its own sake or for the sake of large political pronouncements. It's also not data for its own sake. It's data in order to create jobs and businesses. The United States Patent and Trademark Office had said that they will make all of their data available and downloadable, not simply because it's the right thing to do for democracy, but because it will help people to build information-based businesses. It will help small businesses, for example, as in the case of the NIH Synapse project, to actually find new business opportunities on the basis of finding gaps in patent databases. On participation, it's about the Consumer Product Safety Commission's online focus groups that they run to figure out which products are actually, to really focus group which products are safe and which products are not. Is it user error or is it product malfunction? To be able to do that in order to save the lives of children is the reason we have citizen participation. It's not simply because and not only because it's the right thing to do. Around collaboration, when we can work with Apple, iTunes U, when we can get states and the federal government collaborating so that we can take advantage of the distribution network that Apple provides, and states can in turn work with the best teachers to put content up online so that in the event of a swine flu outbreak, we have the ability to continue the operation of schools even in difficult challenges and times. These projects, and you may have heard, for example, of the one that the Veterans Administration just announced last night, enable us to do things that really actually change people's lives in a practical way. So last night, the Veterans Administration announced a competition that it's running with its employees, the people on the front lines, who are the best positioned to know how do we actually reduce the backlog of claim benefits that veterans are now facing coming back from the war. Since last night, I have the numbers now in. They have gotten 3,600 logins and 530 ideas submitted, or an average about 1 to 2 ideas per minute. The people who create the platform say it's the most active participation they have ever seen in an idea generation project, aimed now again not at collaboration for its own sake, but to doing good in the world to help the lives of those who have fought for us so bravely. But finally, it's not only about policy or about projects that we might do. It's about how we enable both of these things to happen by creating new platforms that enable us to work in new ways. You know about data and data.gov. We've talked a bit about online participation. But what about the way in which government gives out grants? Do you know that just in FY09, we've given out $402 billion in grants, in addition to the contracts that we also award? It's about half of our spending. But we do that in ways that are largely quite closed, in which the grant applications themselves are not visible to others, in which there is perhaps a missed opportunity for people to compete more and to collaborate more through openness and through sharing. Or when we ask a question, and we do so now of face-to-face advisory committees where we could take advantage of expert networking technology. So we're going to be looking to you to help us, to provide us with the processes and also with the products that will help us to work in new open and innovative ways that we've seen from projects like the IT dashboard, like the Open Government Initiative and the tools that we used for online policy making. We're looking for the ways to do this. And let me just close by asking, why does any of this matter? It matters, I think, again, because we have to look at new ways of working that allow us in government institutions to take advantage of the intelligence and the expertise and the good faith and the problem solving that people today working across networks, across Web 2.0 networks, can actually provide into the way that we work. Not simply in order to aggregate votes or preferences, but actually to have ways of collaborating to solve problems, to divvy up roles and tasks, to share our collective brain, if you will, and our many different skills that we have in order to create new ways of working so that we can coordinate projects more effectively in order to solve problems. You may remember Net Day from starting back in '96 that got volunteers around the country organized to go wire the schools. It's that kind of effort that we can now do thanks to new technology in much more effective and coordinated ways that will allow us to solve problems together. Because we have to work together if we're to solve the problems of our time, as the President has called upon us, not just to build tech solutions, but to come up with new ways that we can use data to make people's lives better, that we can use citizen participation, again, to create more effective forms of decision making, that we can actually think about new strategies for collaborating together so that we can change the world and make a difference, not just through legislation and the traditional tools that are usually have been available to us in government, not only through those means, but to the means that are available now to everyone in this room, through collaboration and collective action, coordinated through the new technology of which we now avail ourselves. Thank you very much.